hamburger. All right, let's do this. What's going on, fuckers? My name's Fowler. Welcome to my studio. Let me turn the lights up, actually. And also the camera off, apparently. All right, here we are. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today on this beautiful Friday evening, afternoon. Some people probably morning. Some people probably middle of the night. Appreciate everybody for coming, stopping by, and hanging out. Let's hop over to FL Studio. Here we are. I might actually, you know what? Check this out. Slightly closer. I'm actually a photographer. Okay, so the first thing we're going to listen to, and if anybody is unaware, I'm having a contest for an upcoming track called Girthquake, which is, I'll show you the artwork. Wait, have I showed the artwork yet? Oh, fuck it. We'll show the artwork. Rayhem made this artwork, and I think it's amazing. Oh, let me move it over a bit. Check that out. So April 1st, I'm dropping this song, and what I did was I provided a bunch, or not a bunch, like 4 small little clips of audio from the song. And I want to see what you guys can do with it, because I think it would be fun to hear your version just using a couple little pieces of the song. And then when the actual version comes out, you'll be able to compare and be like, oh my God, mine sounds nothing like that. So if you want to take part in that, the deadline is March 31st, which is actually going to be a feedback stream. And on March 31st, all we're going to do is listen to Girthquake remixes, and then we'll put it to a vote, and the winner will win some stuff in the mail. So, with that being said, here's Girthquake Bad ID remix, I think. So let's have a listen. Why can't I hear anything? Oh, for fuck's sakes. Hold on a sec. I think my sound card has decided to leave. That's so weird. Okay, I might lose you. Hold on. I'm gonna close. Yeah, no, there's no audio coming out of FL. I'm gonna close FL. This could restart my computer. I'm back. Hello. This could restart my yeah, it usually does restart my computer. Okay, let's open this up. Yeah, I know. No mic. Mic now. Right? We good? Es gibt kein mic. Somebody tell me. Mic back. Thank you. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's check this out. I don't know who made this. If whoever made this is here, let me know. But let's have a listen. It's a good break. That was actually really cool. Sounds nothing like the original. That's what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to have like all these tracks that sound nothing like the original, but still have some of the original elements in it. I think that's what makes an interesting remix. But it's really cool. Let me have another listen real quick. My only real concern with this so far is the sub bass is a bit lacking. Like, you can hear it kind of poke through at certain moments. Let me find it. Like right here. Yeah, there's too much dirt and not enough deep. There's too much mid bass and not enough deep bass. That's really my only concern. Besides that, it sounds dope. It's very cool and melodic and kind of emotional sounding, which is hilarious considering the original. But yeah, I would work on getting the sub bass much deeper and more present. The bottom end of the track just kind of feels like noise. It doesn't feel like a solid fundamental. So work on that. And besides that, it's dope. Thanks for sending, and I look forward to hearing the finished product on the 31st. All right, next up, we got Gabritiaz, Interference. All right, this is a really cool track. However, It feels like everything has been smoothed over, like everything's been kind of like gentilized, if that's a word. I really dig all the music and the ambience and the vibe of it. It's just the mix is not aggressive enough for the style, you know? Like I would almost expect it to have a bit more of a 17 or was it 1788? What's Buddy's name? Or like Rez or whatever that like that kind of you know? There's all kinds of cool there's like cool sound design shit, but it feels like everything is just kind of covered in a bit of reverb or some sort of blurring, it's not sharp enough. Yeah, I think like distortion and like I'm not suggesting you try and hit that Rez style, but to me, regardless of Rez or any of the other artists, to me this track feels like it's trying to go like it's trying to like chug harder, but it's just kind of na 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 instead of you know what I mean? It could be just overall brighter. I feel like there's kind of a lack of brightness in it. And also, yeah, I think things could just be pushed a little harder, like a bit more edgy. Yeah, like there's that weird sound is really in the background. And there's some weird, like, super mono stuff that sounds like it's almost been forced to mono. It kinda sounds like it has, like, unison or, like, width effect, like a chorus or something, but then it's been collapsed down to mono. Yeah, like, for example, that ga-ga. It sounds like it's trying to be stereo, but it's been forced to mono. I don't know about that, honestly. Like I understand trying to get stuff, in the middle and on the sides and making use of the full stereo image, but you can tell that that is a stereo sound that's been converted to mono, like you've like dumped it to mono. Because it's kind of got like the sound of the phase difference from the two sides, but then put into one. So I noticed that immediately, like back here. That main kind of it sounds like it definitely used to be wide and it went shoo. I think also maybe one thing that would help with the blurred kind of smoothness is you have a lot of elements in the background right off the top of the drop, right? Like if we listen. There's like there's like a pad in the background. Just fucking get rid of that for the first part of the drop. I would drop with as little things as you need to create the riff or the motif or the melody or whatever, the pattern. Drop with the least amount possible so that you can hit us with the most impact. Because when you drop with but you also have in the background, it just kind of dilutes the impact of the So I think that's my main thoughts on that one is get a little more aggressive. Maybe if you want to put stuff in the middle, figure out a better way than just kind of collapsing like a stereoized sound back down to mono, because it just sounds it to me it sounds kind of like almost like a mistake or something. And just overall a bit brighter and a bit more aggressive in terms of the mix and master. But very cool track. I dig it. I'm going to check out the end. I really like that set where the second drop went too. Yeah, it almost sounds like your sound, it kind of sounds like you have like two sounds that are super wide, and then the rest of the track feels very, very mono. So maybe reinvestigate, I don't know, is that a word? Reinvestigate? Investigate, potentially for the first time, your stereo image. But very cool. Thank you for sending. All right, we got Grim 2077 type beat. Oh, are we going to have another mid-tempo kind of thing? So, this part gets real bassy, like real rumbly, not in a good way. It just kind of sounds like the bass is like 6 dB too loud. Like if I go back in here, let's do this. Did I do any fucky shit with this? No, we're good. Mid side. Okay, let's like I pulled almost 10 dB out of the sub range and it sounds better to me. I really love the major chord, so that's really cool. I dig that. Like the modulation is very cool. Okay, let's keep going. Also, the vocals are just like super buried. Like there's barely vocals in this. Yeah, I think the biggest thing holding this track back right now is that the sub range is kind of honestly a fucking mess. Like if I take the sub out, it sounds like there's not many it just sounds like I've taken the sub out. The rest of the track sounds good. Like then you bring the sub back in and all of a sudden it's just like this big wompy kind of bottom end. It's a cool track. I love those chord changes. I love the style of the track. I just think you need to reimagine how to tackle this bottom end, like the sub range. I think that's the biggest thing so far. Especially like there's moments like right there. What is that? Is that the bass moving to a note that's like way louder, or is there like a tom sound? If you listen to the loudness of the bottom end when it hits that section, like I'll just solo this. You know, it kind of gets really, really, really loud. And the sub is kind of like phasing in and out. Yeah, to me, this track has a lot of potential if you sort out the bottom end and have a nice, solid, fundamental sub bass. Because right now, the bass is just kind of, it's too wompy. That's the word I would use. But very, very cool style. I dig it. I think you're also going to have to commit to some sort of melody or hook or something, because right now it's mostly just like chords and bass and drums, right? I would expect some sort of melody to come in at some point. I don't know if I have, What is... You know, something like that, maybe. I don't know. I'm just kind of spitballing here. I don't know. That would be like the next step would be to figure out a melody and sort out your sub range. And those are my thoughts on that track. I think it's cool, Grim. I like that you're stepping out of your comfort zone and doing something that's not your typical style, which is nothing wrong with your typical style. I just like to see people experimenting with different sounds and different genres, and that's very cool. Okay, cool. Let's move on. We got HHS Spectral Manipulator. Wow. That sounds like a dark synthwave title. Okay, this is very cool up until the drum and bass section. The drums don't sound drum and bass to me. Like the kick, I would say your next course of action would be to focus on getting the kick and the sub bass to sound like they're working together. Right now they don't. Like if you listen specifically or watch on the Wave Candy up here, it's kind of hard to see, but like the sub bass is kind of doing its own thing and the kick is like this big whomp. I know I used whomp last song, but it's got like this whomp sound, and it doesn't feel connected to the sub bass. I think a big thing in drum and bass, and Going Quantum and I had a call yesterday about drum and bass. He was helping me with the track, and I had the same issue where like the kick and the bass sound didn't work together as a team. They felt like they weren't really aware of each other. So what I would do is I would mute everything except the sub bass and the kick drum and maybe the snare, but it's really mostly the sub bass and the kick, and get those two things to feel like the kick punches through the sub, but then the sub is right there right after, if that makes sense. Like you're basically like the kick starts the bass sound, and the kick is almost part of the bass sound. That's going to help a lot. And then the bright stabs are maybe a bit bright in the drop. And I don't think the snare is right for drum and bass. It's too dubsteppy. I do really like the blah, 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 blah in the sub bass. That's fucking cool. Yeah, I really like that. That's really cool. where it's so dark here, and then that's so bright, I would say you'd have to have like a swoosh, like a reverse symbol into that, so that it's not just like brightness, you know? Graded. Oh, hey, John, what's up? I was just telling them how you were giving me feedback on drum and bass in terms of the kick and the sub bass. Okay, so what I would say is melodically, this thing's really cool. But another piece of advice that John gave me was for drum and bass, maybe start with drum loops as opposed to one hits, because these one hits just aren't really working for it. But like the melodies are sick. I love the melodies, and I have a soft spot for like chiptune. Okay, let's hear what this second drop's like. Do you hear what I mean? Like the kick drum almost has like a sub-audible frequency. It's like this super low just thump, and it doesn't jive with the sub bass. So I guess overall, my feedback for this track is that the song itself melodically is strong. I like the chord progression. I like the melodies. It's mostly the drums and the way that they interact with the track is the issue. So maybe invest in some new sample packs. Maybe go grab some new drum and bass loops. I just think the samples that are being used are not exactly right for this song. Okay, cool. Let's move on. I feel like this would be good music for gaming. I agree, especially if the game was driving a car to the store to buy new drum samples. Okay, we got Ice Skyab, Cyberpunk, mid-tempo. Let's go. Okay, already I feel like my life is in danger. Now, to be honest, it kind of sounds like you reached into a hat and picked out some notes at random here. I'm not a big fan of these note choices, but let's keep going. Like, just fucking start it here. Because this part's cool. That part leading up to it made no sense to me. Let's go. Okay, so I love the acid bass. I'm a sucker for good acid bass for sure. The kick drum feels like it's entirely transient. The sounds are pretty good. The mix, however, is lacking. Like the kick and snare sound petite. Like, I would A/B this against your favorite mid-tempo artist and listen to the way the kick and the snare sounds. Listen to the way that the snare crunches. You know, the snare just kind of sounds like it's underneath the track. Like, I like the underlying track. I like the underlying bass line and what it's doing and the groove of it, but the mix is just not doing it justice. I think you put two kick drums on top of each other. Like let's solo just the sub bass. the kick is not very loud, and that's an issue. The kick and snare are not very powerful. Okay, now we're back to the random notes pulled out of a hat. I think you should base the track on the acid bass line. Like, it at least is following some form of musical idea. And I'm not trying to be overly harsh. I just think that these notes just are just kind of just like random. Yeah, I 100% think that you accidentally dropped 2 kick drum samples on top of each other. Ask me how I know. Look at this. Or maybe it's just that you had like a reverse one that was really, really loud. I don't know, that one's a little weird. Anyway, overall, I would say the track is it just needs to be mixed much better, and you need to adhere to some sort of musical scale or theory when it comes to these like non-drop sections. But I like where it's going, so keep going. Cool, let's move on. We got Coda B5. Sounds a little better. Okay, that's a nice name for a track. What's up, dude? Okay, so I really like this track. It's very like psytrance almost. It's like a slow psytrance. I would say your biggest thing right now is that it's not mixed and mastered very loud. Like if I take off this massive amount of limiting, and the drums feel very like 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, like they're very like they don't feel like they flow into each other very well. And another thing, I remember in a previous stream I was talking about, instead of having like kick slash snare, it's like a kick crunchy kick crunchy kick. Like you can even see on the waveform where your kick and where your snares are. The snare doesn't like fit with the kick. It's on top of everything, which makes mastering it even harder, because now you've got this bigger transient snare body added to the kick drum. Like you've got this big noise that you have to deal with. So I think either using a different sample or the way that you mix it together, I think this is one of those tracks that needs to have the kick crunchy kick crunchy kick instead of kick slash snare kick slash snare, if that makes sense. But yeah, mostly like for the style, it's really good. I think that the mix and master is just a little not powerful enough. You can really hear like the kick and the snare are almost in a league of their own in terms of volume versus everything else. So I think sort out the kick and the crunchy kick, bring the kick and the crunchy kick down, and then bring everything up. Also, this is kind of like the first time that I'm really hearing those vocals, I think. Like, I would have the vocals in their full glory at the start of the track here. I don't think having them an octave down really makes sense. I would introduce the vocals in their full octave at the start of the track, and then maybe play around with the lower octaves, like maybe in this breakdown or something. But I don't think that we should be getting the full vocals for the first time 2 minutes into the song. Vocals also kind of sound like they have like the top end of them rolled off or something. I don't quite feel. It almost sounds like an alternate version of Sky Owl. It's funny. Yeah, those are my thoughts. I think it's a really cool kind of side trancey track that just needs a bit of mix love. It needs a crunchy kick and then mastered harder so that it's much more powerful. All right, moving on. We got Leewan. Wrong one. Leewan, Flow State. Let's have a listen. I love that bass sound. It's sick. So this is really groovy when it gets into it. I would say it took a bit too long to get to this part because if we listen to this, the drums sound like they're in the next room over. Super low, super verbed out. Yeah, I would say the sections outside of like the drop or whatever you want to call this section are just a bit too gentle. They're just like, ooh, I don't want to bother anybody, you know? And then overall, I would probably drop your main drum sounds like your kick and snare. I drop them down a bit because it already sounds much better if I like crank the limiter. Right? But you can see the kick and snare are like so much louder than the rest of the track that it's hard to limit it hard. Like it's hard to really bring that threshold down without the kick and snare really doing some bad things. So I would honestly, let me just make sure I'm not like boosting some high end. No, okay. Yeah, I would bring the main drums down a bit and then limit it harder. Like give us some more volume. I feel like when I do this with it brings up a lot of the nuances in the background and stuff. It just sounds better in general. So bringing down your main drums a bit and then just smacking it a bit harder in the master. And then these sections, I don't know, they're so quiet and delicate and I don't know if that's the move. Like, I'm not saying don't be smooth and jazzy and have the wah-wah bass. Like, that's all cool stuff. But maybe it's mostly just the drums. There's also, like, this super resonant thing. It might be a bongo or something. Let me find it. Yeah, that bongo is like really ringy at that one frequency. But a super, I would call this snazzy. The word that I would use to describe this word, snazzy. The word that I would use to describe the song, snazzy. So keep going with it. Get it a little bit more girthy, I think. I think that's the move. I would filter the top ding 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 ding. Yeah, I like that too. That's a good note. I think the strength is these like thicker sections. So maybe like the only thing I'd really change about these thicker sections is dropping those main drums so you can limit it a bit harder. But I would focus your energy on making these non-girthy sections a bit girthier. Cool. Let's move on. Sounds great. Thank you for sending. We got Nemkai. I'm going to be honest with you. I stubbed my toe really, really bad right before I started the stream, and I'm in a lot of excruciating pain. Let's go. Okay, the chords they're too jazzy. Too jazzy, too low in the register. Like there's just some, if you just like take a snapshot and listen to the chord that's being played, that makes kind of sense, but like, let's try this. Yeah, the chords I don't like at all. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like the chord progression at all. It's too, again, kind of picking notes out of a hat and putting them into chords. They're too jazzy in a way that doesn't even really make sense in even jazz. I really like the intro. I mean, it has a car sound, obviously, but like, I like the music that's here. It's a little on the jazzy side even there, but like when it gets to the full... Like I kind of get, what's up, Zyno? I'm doing well, except my toe, which is currently fucked. I get what you're going after, but I just think that the chords are too jazzy. Like, especially that third one. It kind of feels like a fever dream. It feels like somebody like somehow took my consciousness and forced it into a Game Boy cartridge, and that was now my life, you know? And like some kids playing like I don't know, some sort of fighting game, and I'm the character and I'm stuck in the cartridge. And the enemy just has like a huge smile that goes up to like his forehead. Yeah, I agree with TTV, like, or Fallout. I feel like I want to enjoy those chords. They're so close, but they're just not quite there. It's mostly that third chord, I think. Like it just, I don't know. My only real note on this one is sort out those chords. You're close to something that's cool and modular and changing into the major chord, and it's kind of almost there, but it's just there's just some sour moments that I'm not enjoying. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Thank you. Thank you for sending. Definitely the most unique chord progression so far, I think. Okay, let's check out Netfelix. What's up, Rayhem? Late. Rewind. Let's check it out.
Time has been moving so slowly, slowly. I forgot where I was going. Take a trip down memory lane. Oh, I am not the same. Time has been going slowly, slowly. I could rewind.
In before Rayhem hates the rank snare. Okay, so I think this is cool. I think the chords are a bit vague, and I think that is partly due to the fact that it's kind of like that color-based thing. I can't really tell what is going on chord progression-wise. It just kind of sounds like dun 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 dun. So. So I don't know what to tell you to do on that. Maybe having like a mid bass, because you have this like super loud sub, and the sub has like this distorted noise at the very top end, but there's really nothing in between, right? You got like big sub, distorted noise, and scoop. And then in that scoop, you have these color-based chords, and color-based chords, they almost don't matter what note you're playing. Like they just kind of, they sound like color bass, you know? Now, in terms of the snare, I actually really like the sound of the snare, but I find that you might have to layer like a layer to it. I know, layer, eh? It's crazy. That basically gives it more of a snap, because it doesn't feel like it really has much of a transient. It just kind of feels like cardboard box that appears on your deck rhythmically. Like, okay, this is a shit snare, but like, let's just steal the transient off it and see if it helps. Let's try that. Yeah, or maybe even those snares that you have there. I don't know. I like the character of the snare, but the utility is what I'm after. Like the transient, the snap of it. It seems to be lacking that snap. So if you could somehow like superimpose the snap or the transient off of a different snare in with that and still have it work in the mix, I think that's going to be the winning maneuver.
You made me question
I think the real big kick, sidechaining like even the vocals, is a bit unnecessary in this section. I would dial the kick back and let the vocals drive, you know, like don't duck the vocals, because it's not like this is a drop section. This is a breakdown section.
It's your methods now. I'm done stealing to leave. Take a trip.
And I don't like the snare in this.
Stay away from my bed before I tell you to shut. You made me
It sounds like somebody's spanking a cardboard box.
take a trip down.
There's almost like two it sounds like somebody spanking a cardboard box with two hands, and they tried really hard to hit it at the same time with both hands, but one hand hit slightly sooner than the other.
Take a trip down memory lane. Oh, I am not the same. Time has been going slowly. If only I could rewind. If only I could rewind.
I like that. I like those sounds. But again, I'm still in agreement with myself, which is crazy, I know, that the bass needs like a girthy mid bass section to connect the bottom to the top, you know? And to give us more of an idea of what note or chord is being played, because the color bass chords aren't really doing it. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, is like, let us know what notes are being played, you know, because it's not super clear. The sub bass is too low to really determine the pitch without having some harmonics on top of it to reinforce like, oh, this is a D sharp or something, you know. Thank you for Juan. That's the best Spectrum image we've had so far. Thank you for Juan. Don't get me wrong, the track is dope. I think you just need to make sure that you add in some sort of gritty layer, something that it just makes the notes more clear. Cool. All right, let's move on. We got sound screen. Let's delete this.
Does it feel that I'm gone from your side? Your words, were they real? They still echo through my mind. You left me here alone, under the neon light. Give me just one more night. was in your heart. And never felt pain come from love till I watched you walk away. You left me here alone, loving me alone. Just one more night.
Yeah. So, okay. Sorry, I got distracted there. Although, you know what? I'm going to copy this and I'm going to, just so it doesn't happen again, I'm going to just go ahead and paste it in my Discord server. There you go. Okay, cool. So how do I feel about this track? I think I like the song. Okay. I think the phaser sound on the vocal is, I believe, unnecessary. Like, I don't know what it's accomplishing. I think this vocal sounds great. Like, the performance and everything sounds great on the vocal. Why is there a phaser? You know, it kind of just sounds like, oh, this is a cool effect. Let me put it on the vocal. So I don't think the phaser on the vocal is important or useful. I think it's just slightly distracting. Okay, let's move on. Like, I could see it maybe during like a build section or something, but just when you're just delivering the vocal, just let the vocal be a vocal. Cool. Okay, now my next thought is that the bottom end in the sub range in this is kind of a bit of a mess. Like, if I just solo from 100 hertz and down, there's no discernible note. There's no bomb. It's just kind of, right? And you don't want, you want bomb. So I would go and figure out what is causing your sub bass or your sub range of the song to not have a discernible note. I'm willing to bet it has something to do with the fact that your sub bass is going like you're playing it at a 16th note, right? Maybe the other stuff can be doing 16th notes, but the sub bass is just going bah and delivering a solid foundation. That's the biggest thing this is missing at the moment. It just kind of sounds like there's like this like just noise, you know, and like there's just like a bunch of rumbly noise going on in general in the track. I actually honestly really liked that section, and then I went to kind of like the dubstep thing, and I don't like the dubstep thing nearly as much as I like that 4 to the floor. Is there any side chaining during that? That section is literally the original song. Oh, I'm not familiar with the original. Yeah, I would, after this stream, I would go watch my video on sub bass separation so that you can understand a bit more about what I'm talking about. Because the bottom end, it just sounds like, even right there, it sounds like you have this big effect sound that has a bunch of sub range to it, but you're playing it during a drop with a kick and with a sub bass and stuff, and that just makes it a big mess down there. You need to like carve out and carefully sculpt the bottom end to be a solid foundation for the rest of the track. Let's keep going.
From what was in
Yep, that's my homework for you, is to figure out how to solve the bottom end so that if you listen, I don't know how you mix, but say you put on your headphones, you low pass the whole song at 100 hertz, you should still be able to tell what notes are being played. You should still be able to feel a nice solid bass note, and you can't do it with this. It just feels like white noise down there. So I think that's the takeaway from this. I mean, yeah, the snare isn't that great either. Like there's numerous issues with the mix of this, but I think the most bang for your buck, like the most that you're going to improve, not only this song but hopefully your future songs, is to figure out a process where you make sure your sub bass is nice and solid, nice strong foundation, and one of the tests is, like I said, low pass the whole song at 100 hertz. You should still be able to hear discernible notes that the bass is playing. That's your homework. Go do that. I think there's a lot of cool stuff happening here, but without that solid bottom end, it's hard to really give you more feedback because you need that solid foundation for the rest of the track to be built on. All right, cool. Thank you for sending Moon on. Swiss cheese, bumblebee. Kind of rhymes. Oh my fuck, look at that kick. Okay, so this is something that I think I've picked up on with numerous Swiss cheese submissions. Emphasis on the cheese at the start, and I knew this was coming. So like at the start, that beep a deep a dee, it feels super cheesy. Like it's super cheese, right? But then once we get the context of the song, now all of a sudden it makes more sense, and there's more emotion, there's more authenticity to it, you know? But until we get the rest of the song, it just sounds super cheesy. Which I know is kind of ironic because his name is Cheese. You know, once we get to this section, so I guess my advice would be to be a bit more aware of how cheesy it sounds when you start these tracks with these like little dingly synth things. The synth things are cool in the context of the track with the chords and the bass and everything, but when you just give us the kick and the snare and like the boop it boop it boop a deep a doo or whatever, it's just like, it just feels too cheesy to me. I don't really know. I would just not start with that. I would maybe start with the kick and like the snare or the kick snare, maybe like the bass line, or I don't know. I don't know what I would do, but I just know that this start sounded cheesy, and then when the chords hit, I was like, ah, okay, this is actually cool. I swear to God, if this is just a section of piano chords, how? Because this is something that Cheese does every single time. And I'm always like, we can't just have chords. We can't just have chords, you know? I don't want to say every song. It's not good to speak in absolutes, you know, but most of his submissions have a breakdown with just chords for an extended period of time. Maybe if you're planning on having vocals there or something. Also, this piano doesn't sound great. Like just the plug-in itself. What you're doing on it is fine, but like the sound of it is just not that great. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like what happens if we just like do this? If we do this there, and then we come over here, and we go here. And then we go here. Let's just see what happens. Like that's better. That to me, that's better, just getting rid of that section. Now that would change if there was going to be vocals or a melody or a hook or something, right? But just the pianos themselves are not enough. I would watch also your high pass kicks are super aggressively loud. Again, if you're gonna have vocals, maybe this makes sense. With Cheese Logistics Solutions, your company could excel in customer retention and goal success, including financial stability. That's a good call. Yeah, overall, like the high pass kicks are like super loud compared to the non-high pass kicks. So like duk, 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 duk. Now, normally I would say I don't like the wham, 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 wham sound, but one thing that I've encouraged Cheese to do is go and experiment with sound design and do more than just pianos and sawtooths. So I'm happy, even though I don't really love that sound, I'm happy that it's not a sawtooth. I think that is a good move. Might get a ton of ideas for filling out the mix from upbeat house tunes on Monstercat. Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's great advice. Go check out some reference tracks, get inspired. Keep going, Swiss Cheese. Every time you send something, it's a little bit better, and that is definitely moving in the right direction. All right, cool. Let's move on. Tesseracts to the top. Is this the one from last week that's just been improved? Wait, is this like kind of funk? Yeah, that was sick. As always, if anything, my only real note is probably the same one that I almost always give Tesseracts. Okay, you can send your song by following these instructions, if I can remember which side. Right there. Transition, I don't know what to do. How do you do it? What? Oh, for the next track. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so my only real gripe is that I know there's da 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 na 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 or whatever. Like that's like the hook, but I think that it could be presented in a bit more meaningful way. And what I mean by that is let's find it. So actually, I think this is the only time we get kind of the full hook, you know? Like it's kind of hinted at. but it's not enough. Like we get it back here and it sounds great and it's hooky. But it needs to be that up front in the mix and the way it's produced. You got like an octave thing and it's really in my face. Ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da. Like it's really in my face. But it's only really in my face in this section of the song. Yes, I guess it's there with the funk thing, you know. Oh, it's there too, okay. Why isn't it there? Why isn't it right before the drop, you know? Let me grab it. Let's just go like this and do a real crude slice and dice. Line it up. All right, let's see what this sounds like. Like I like the little, I like these drums. They sound dope, but like drums don't get stuck in my head very often. So let's try doing this. Maybe this will sound terrible. I have no idea. Like, okay, that's okay to switch it up there if it's in other parts, you know? Like don't be, I feel like, okay, I don't know, but I feel like you are worried about being annoying. And maybe I am annoying, but listen to my songs. Go look at the lyrics for Hot, you know? That, you know, that would be my, I think you're erring too far on the side of variety. And variety almost flies in the face of being hooky in a way, if that makes sense. Like, in order to be hooky, you got to keep hitting us with that. Be like, hey guys, this is the hook, you know? And you could get cheeky with it too, you know, like right here, instead of giving us the whole thing, we thought this vocal would be too much annoying. It ain't. It's good. Or hey, every other time, instead of the vocal, do it on synth. You know, that is the hook of the song. And that's kind of the, like, your production and sound design is fucking next level, right? But my only gripe with a lot of the stuff you send is like, it's not hooky enough. It doesn't get stuck in my head. It sounds like producer music, right? Like it's just so close to being so, it is amazing. Don't get me wrong. It sounds fucking dope, but it would be so much better if you incorporated the hookiness of like pop music, the hookiness of song structure, just a bit more, because even just doing things like having this here, that tells us dumb people this is the hook, you know, especially when you drop something right before the drop. Hey guys, that's the hook. Congratulations. You now know what the hook is. And then remind us what the hook is periodically. And like I said, get cheeky with it. And right here, that's kind of like it's kind of like a calm response. You've got, like you have all the ingredients here. I think, like I said, you're just erring on the side of caution because you don't want to be annoying. But like, there's so much other variety in the track. You're not going to get fucking annoying, you know? This is how we rock. This is how we win. This is how we roll, man. How many times did I fucking say that in that song? Maybe I'm too far in the opposite direction. Maybe I need to chill on my repetition of the hook. But that is that's my thought. I think if you can just make your tracks a little more hooky, it's gonna blow up. It's gonna explode. I don't know. I don't know how kind of what your fan base is now, but like you got some top-notch shit for sure. It just needs to be a bit hookier. All right, dope. I hope that helps. Thank you for sending as always. Enjoy. All right. Okay, we got verbatim no name whip. Bust it out.
Your kind know nothing but hunger, purged all life on the upper layers, and yet they remain unsatiated. As you've taken everything from the machine, and now all that remains is perfect.
Whoa, that cymbal thing was too loud. I agree with the chat. The drums I think are they're not crunchy enough. The hi-hat is a little too like fun, if that makes sense. Like this style kind of needs to have just like you know. The hats are too fancy, you know. They're like it's almost like you're at a futuristic demolition derby, but you show up wearing a gown or like a tuxedo, you know? Like the hats are just too like whoop-de-doo, you know? Also, just generally speaking, it's not really smashed enough. And I didn't really understand this kind of fade into the drop. I think if you want to do this sort of like fake out section, you got to like high pass it. So for example, if we go like this, and we go stereo, and we go like this. So imagine instead you did something along these lines. You know, and then that tells us, hey, this isn't supposed to be a drop, because it kind of dilutes the start of the drop. We're like, did the drop start, or is the drop starting now? So yeah, I would try to, like, if you're going to do like this fake out thing, make it more obviously a fake out, not just like kind of a weird start to a drop. And sometimes you can just get away with maybe high passing it and then have like some sort of build and like a drum fill, and then you're into the drop part. That would be my suggestion. The bass sounds good though. Like I like what it's doing. I like the notes. I like the sound. That's a very sharp transient. That was kind of weird. The drums being like reverbed out and like the low end coming back in towards the end of this build was kind of weird, I think. Also, I'm not quite sure, but sometimes these are getting real snappy with the transients. You know what I mean? Like watch up here and watch, you can see the certain kicks or snaps or whatever have like this super single pixel line. That's the second. Oh, that's the second transition you're talking. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I think the transients are a bit much. They kind of stick out on their own. Like they don't feel connected to the rest of the track. They're like the only thing in the track that is that sharp. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think basically figure out the starts of your drops, make them more obviously like a fake out or more obviously not the start of the drop here. And then keep going. I dig this track. I dig the cyberpunk feel. I think it's pretty cool. I just think you need to keep going on it. It's that's pretty much all. I think that's the only feedback I have for it at the current state that it is at. So I hope that helped. Thanks for sending. All right, Vamori, full flex. I see that. This is full dynamic range flex. Let's have a listen. All right, this is very cool. My initial thoughts are similar to that for the Tesseract's track. The hookiness. So I know you have the bass going dum 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 dum, but it's so low that we don't really hear that melody super clearly, except right there. That sounds dope. Bum 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 bum. But all the other times you give us that little motif, you know what I mean? Like it's there, but it's not as in your face. So maybe having some sort of layer driving home that bum, 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 because that's a cool hook. I just feel like the track is missing a more in your face hook. Like it's there, but it's so low that it just it doesn't drive home the hook as well as that one section. I think it's like an octave up or something. It sounds great there. You know what I mean? Like right there, it doesn't sound like dum 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 dum. It sounds like like it doesn't have a discernible note to it. I really like that Reese bass, but what would it sound like if you stripped everything else and you just had, because it's kind of lost in the mix. So what would it sound like if you pulled everything out except maybe the vocals or maybe like the clap, like strip it way back and really let that like that respace cut through. Be like, hey, fuck you, listen to this respace, you know?
I'm feeling lonely, so I hope she stay. I'm confident when I'm drinking rain. I hope you get a taste. Be on the opposite, never want. Be on the opposite, never want.
Again, in this section, I'm feeling like it's not a super discernible note. It just kind of sounds like it sounds like a distorted bass, but I'm not hearing like dun dun dun. Oh, back it up. Yeah. So pretty much my main thought is get some higher up elements that drive home those notes a little bit more clearly in the top register. Like not super bright, but just like stuff that isn't bass doing dan da da da. Like that one section that I pointed out sounded great, but it doesn't happen very often in that octave. Most of the time it's just, you know? So that's pretty much it. Besides that, it's dope. Lots of cool sound design happening. If you can get the hook to be more hooky, then you will have hooked the hooky hook. So I would go for that. Okay, 1/2 of Tesseract's Snow Side project. I see they find a fucking loophole in the submission rules. They're like, we can submit 2 tracks. All right, let's have a listen. I really like this little fucking 2 hertz sound. Okay, I would maybe have like a little swoosh or something here just to kind of create a bit more interest during this section. I'm not upset with the length of this, but even just like a halfway through would allow us to kind of maintain our attention a bit better. did. That was sick. I think the sub is a bit overpowering for the rest of the track. Like, I would bring the sub down so that the rest of the track can be a bit brighter. There's some notes that are like really overpowering. Like the sub feels like here and the rest of the track kind of feels here. But anyway, let's keep going. That's really my only thought so far. I feel like that section was kind of needlessly long. Okay, what the fuck? Okay, wait, did they find another loophole and they found a way to submit 3 songs? So that was a really cool track. I think that this is an interesting concept, but I think that the execution could be better because I was just straight up fucking confused for a while. And then finally I heard the chord progression come back and I was like, oh, it's the same song. You know, like, I think it's a cool concept, but this whole section here just didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Let me see. Like, I'm not suggesting to just cram it together and get rid of all that kind of. I think the length of the cinematic part is okay. I think it's mostly that the bass line just feels like it has changed key. You know? I don't know. I mean, it feels like a real artsy piece. So you do you. But at the same time, we were all a little confused as to what was happening. So if that is if that was your intention, then congratulations. I was confused. I wasn't sure if you had snuck in another song. I was just confused. But once I get to this part, so maybe like do all of the same shit, but like play the same kind of chords or something, you know? I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I think it's a dope track. I think the sub is too loud in the drops, and I was a bit confused during this section. Those are my thoughts. Thank you for sending. All right. We got Thunder on Fire Underwater. Thunder on Fire Underwater. That's a fucking mouthful of words right there. Let's have a listen. Okay, so my first technical thought on this is this right here. Very resonant. That thing. Like it's cool and it's artsy. But like the resonance of that is overpowering everything else in the track. Like, it's almost like the track consists almost entirely of that one frequency that's moving around with the different notes, but that one, like, ringing bell kind of woo-woo-woo thing. Drums are 7 meters below it in volume. Like, I think this is cool and unique and artsy, but that ringing is kind of like a technical issue that is really going to hold it back from going forward, because it's so resonant-y, you know? It's too resonant. So I would probably... it sounds like AI music. Yeah, it's weird, you know, which is cool. It's not weird necessarily in a bad way. But I'm just a little confused as to, like, you know, is this a song? Is this like, I'm not quite sure what it is. It's weird and unique, and I like it, though I would definitely address that super resonance down. You know what I mean? Like that I think that's the biggest thing on my mind right now is that it's just like, whoa, you know? That frequency is really on top of everything else. So I'd take whatever that instrument is and try to scoop some of that out or figure out why it sounds like that and fix that technically before moving on. And then if it's supposed to be like a track or a song, the drums are just not there. the drums are like underneath everything. So I think mix wise, get rid of the resonance and then try to figure out how to get the drums to cut through a bit louder. Okay, thanks for sending. Let's move on. We got All My Good Bass Multi-Fox remix. We got the Sex Club. Once again, the European Sex Club remix. Let me make sure I got rid of all that stuff off the master. Where is the master? Okay, we'll get rid of that and everything else. Okay. Let us go.
Yo, rip up. I might go a good bass. Yo, rip up. I might go a good bass. Yo, rip up. I might go a good bass. Yo, rip up. I might go a good bass. Yo, rip up. I might go a good bass. I might go a good bass.
This is a really wacky remix. I think the bass is a little too loud. Like, I know it's called All My Good Bass, but just a little bit. Like, the sub range is just a little bit too loud. I don't know. Like, I feel like you should move on. I don't have any real other useful feedback. Besides, I think whatever you learned from this, I would apply it to the next song. Kind of exists in its own universe, you know. It's like a wacky European fucking nightclub thing, and that's cool. I don't know if I have any real other notes on it. I think it sounds vastly better than the first one you sent. Let me see, when was that? It was like a month ago. AMGB 1722. Yes, here we go. Here's the original one you sent. Let's do a direct comparison to see what kind of improvements you've made. So this was the one you sent in February. Right. It was playing the wrong note. Okay, so that's a clear win. It's also faster now, which is interesting. Okay. It doesn't have all the reverb. Yeah, it's vastly better. There's been some large improvements, which is great. The only reason I say you should move on is because I feel like after you work on a track over and over and over, and maybe you're working on other tracks, I don't know. But the only track that I've heard from you in the past, since February, the 2nd of February or something, or maybe not quite, I don't remember what the date was, but anyway, is this. And I think that you've made some big improvements and you've probably learned a lot. So I'm looking forward to hearing something else. Yeah, sounds good. Cool. All right, move on. Amnesia Nameless. Hold on. Okay. I like this crunch, but then it goes to like whatever that snare is. I don't like this snare. It doesn't really, it just kind of feels like a rice cake or something. But I did like this original. That fits the track better. That like it's like a dirty clap as opposed to a rice cake. What I mean though, like it kind of, that snare kind of feels like when you take a bite into a rice cake, which if you think about it, when you buy rice cakes, you're basically buying air. Like it's like 90% air. It's like flavored air, you know? Anyway, anyway, whatever. Okay, so thoughts on this so far. I think your kick drum is a little too long because when you're moving the bass down to the different notes, your kick drum is acting as a bass and it's playing the original root note, but the bass has moved down. So if you listen, like if we go here. So bum ba bum bum bum. The bass has moved, but because your kick drum is a long kick drum, it's still playing dum dum dum. It's still playing the root note. So the fix for that would be to shorten the kick drum a little bit and bring the side chain a little bit tighter so that you have the punch of the kick, but the ringing note is now the bass as opposed to the kick and then the bass. That, and I don't like the snare. I think that having like a clap or something that's a little less like drum machine snare would probably be best. But I really like the trancey vibes. It's very cool. The vocal sounds like it's been ripped off of YouTube. This is like some 2 a.m. dark club vibes. I dig it. I don't mind the vocals as like an ambient kind of atmospheric element, but there was moments when you kind of relied on the vocals and they just had this like kind of shitty quality to them, like I said, ripped off of YouTube or something. Like they're kind of like dull in the top end or something. Ooh. like it's a sick trance song. I think that those notes that I gave you would improve it quite a bit. So give those a try and see what happens. Thank you for sending. That was very cool. And I wish that it was 2 a.m. and I was drunk. Okay, we got Dovey Skull Crusher. Oh my god. Okay.
Everybody buy music. Everybody buy music.
Okay, this was very sick, but what is going on here?
Everybody buy music.
Like, look at how loud this is, and then everything else. Yeah, there's some mix, like this is very cool and has some good potential, though there are some mix problems, some glaring mix problems. There are the elements that we can just clearly see visually are too loud. Whatever that is, that just like sticks out of the mix, and then the rest of the track is just way quieter. And then you've got your drums, which you can see, instead of seeing a peak for a drum, we're seeing a dip, you know? Like if I go like this, and I go like, or I go like this, and then I go like this, and I'll go like this. So normally we would expect to see the kick drum kind of doing, and then the snare, you know, well, it'd be more like this. We would normally see that, right? But what you have is kind of the inverse, because the side chain is pulling everything down to make room for a kick drum that should be filling up this spot, but it is not, right? And then the same thing here with the kick and snare section. The side chain is ducking everything down to make room for this like big kick, but the big kick ain't there, you know? So what you would hope to achieve is a somewhat flat sausage, right? And the way you would do that, you'd have a big kick drum snare thing here. You would duck. Can I do? Oh, I think I could do a blue. Yes. You would duck the bass, and then you'd bring the bass up, right? That's what, and then the overall volume, I'm getting real fancy, by the way, would be the two of them added together. That's the goal. The goal is for the side chaining to make room for a large kick drum or snare drum, right? But you don't have enough snare or kick to justify the depth of this side chain. So I hope that this this graphic is showing you that this is all wasted headroom, and it's also what's contributing to the drums feeling super weak, because you've got this huge side chain action, but there's nothing there to cause the side chain. I hope that makes sense. Let's keep going. I think first of all, fixing the volume discrepancies between these different elements is going to help a lot, and then sorting out the kick and the side chain is going to help a lot. Let's keep going. It almost sounds like you've muted the kick and snare, but I can hear them in there, so I think they're just vastly too quiet versus the synths. I really like the bass line there. It sounds evil and sick.
Everybody buy the music.
Okay, this section I'm a little confused. You know, like we're going quite a while with thick bass, but it's not a drop. Yes. Okay. The sub range is kind of messy, but I would say your homework on this one is to sort out this sound being 5 billion times louder than everything else, and then try to achieve. And whether you do that with like, there's a mini meters plugin you can use that shows you like a real time waveform. But what you need to try and do is fill this in, fill in this wasted headroom, and then that will make your drums sound like they deserve for everything to be sidechained to them. Okay, cool. Moving on. Got two more. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. Okay, Adexi, the Soviet banging machine. Okay, that's A+ for the title.
Внимание! Говорит Москва! Говорит Москва! Заявление советского правительства. Германские войска напали на нашу страну.
Oh, that was really fun. I think my only real thoughts on it are the that whatever that web-based thing is. It's a bit too like pushed back. Both, it almost sounds like it has reverb on it, or it's too noisy or something. It doesn't have much of a chug to it. It's like too instead of like junk. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense. Yeah, it sounds like it's like soaked in like a short reverb or something. I would dry it out a bit. But besides that, that was a super fun, almost like concept piece, you know? Very cool. That's basically all I got. It sounded cool to me. Besides, that was just a little too wet. But very Tetrisy. Okay, cool. Last one. We got Fallout 450 Overlord. Holy dear Lord. Holy shit, look at that. Let's just there's lots of cool synth shit happening here. I really like it. It sounds very Harmer and looks very Harmer. Sounds like a Harmer synth for sure. Okay, so there's the drums. I'm sure you've been struggling with these drums. They're very transient-y and very like almost entirely transient, right? No problem, dude. Thanks for sending. I think that's the biggest issue here is that is too transient. I don't know if you've like if that's just the sound of the sample or if you've like incorrectly used a compressor and tried to compress it, but all you've done is really brought out the transients by having like a long attack time or something. But the problem with these drums is that the peaks of them, or the transients, are super loud, but immediately the volume of that drum drops down. Yeah, I would say it sounds to me, and I can kind of demonstrate this. It sounds to me like you have incorrectly used a compressor. So let's take a break from your track for a sec, and let's just pick any snare. Sure, let's take this snare. Okay, so if we like this is what you're trying to achieve with a compressor, right? You're trying to bring down the peaks so that you can turn the whole thing up, right? You gain that much volume. The problem is if you, and I'm not compressing it, I'm using a feature in FL that just fades the front of the sample down, which I do quite often instead of compressing, which is kind of cool. But anyway, let's send this to a track and let's put a compressor on it, and we'll use one with a good visual GUI. Here we go. So now we can see the gain reduction reacting to the input, right? But if we turn the attack up to like 100 milliseconds, you can see it takes, or even further, you can see it's not a straight down. So it's actually allowing, and let's actually make this more intense. We'll go like this. Okay. So now we've converted this to pure snap, and I can show you by, let's put Edison after the compressor. Where's Edison? Edison. Where the fuck is, I don't know the alphabet. All right. So now let's take this and compare. So, or we'll just compare it like this. Now see how the start of the sample is still just as loud, but all we've done is kind of the opposite of what we were trying to do. We've emphasized the start by using a compressor like this. Now, one thing that I do commonly is instead of using compressors and instead of using the fade in, because I don't know, it sounds like you're using Harmer, so maybe you have FL. Sometimes I just straight up distort the top of it off, right? Now we can make the snare louder, not have that peak slice right through. So now if I Edison that instead, and we look at it, and now we take, now see how the rest of the snare lives. You know, I don't know what Harmer is. Okay, just one of the synths you were using sounded like a synth in FL. Now, you can see like they both sound about the same volume, but you can see how much room we now have that we could turn this up, or maybe we don't hit the master limiter as hard. The second one actually kind of sounds louder because the RMS, or the average loudness of the whole sample, is greater because it doesn't drop off as fast. So anyway, that's a big long way of saying, look at how sharp these transients are, but the drums sound weak because it's just transient. There's no body, there's no oomph, you know, there's no boom, there's none of that. It's just a snap. So actually, if I take this and let's send this into, we'll just, this is kind of a don't do this sort of thing, but we'll take this and we're going to distort the track. We're going to just go ahead and slice off those peaks. Okay. And now let's and I'm not suggesting this is how you do it. I'm just trying to demonstrate what it would sound like if those peaks weren't super duper loud. Okay, and then this is, let's turn off. Okay, so this is with that distortion on. This is with it off. So you see the master limiter is grabbing peaks even with the threshold. So now if we got rid of those peaks, let's turn the distortion back on. Now we can already just grab 7 dB of loudness because we've gotten rid of those peaks by this crude way of doing it. Again, I'm not suggesting you put distortion in your master bus. I'm just trying to show you how loud you could get it and more powerful without those really sharp peaks. Because let's keep this at the same level, and the only thing we're going to do is well, actually, we just do this. Now, see all this shit that's happening in the master bus that's just reacting to those big peaks. And those peaks aren't really contributing to the overall volume of the track. It's just going to fuck with your limiter. So anyway, I hope that helps, because that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest problem with this track right now, is that your drums are just totally peaked out. They're very sharp, transient little slices. And that makes it very hard to get the track loud, because your master limiter is now going to be reacting to all of these little slices when it should, you should just be able to fucking slice that right off. And that's basically what I was trying to achieve with the wave shaper, was just getting rid of that and getting rid of that. And that's not just going to fix the track, but that's a good start, because now all of a sudden you have a much more usable kind of dynamic range and easier to control, and the drums won't sound nearly as fucked. But I think that you probably have some weird compression. I honestly very rarely use compressors on drum samples. They're already compressed all to shit, Like, I very rarely will use a compressor on anything besides like vocals. I don't use compressors very often, honestly. So learning how to master drums has been a graceless tumble. That's okay. Every time you try to learn or you experiment, you are getting better, even if it doesn't feel like it. So all you have to do is keep fucking doing that, and you will achieve you'll never achieve the goal of feeling like you are as good as you want to be. At least I've been doing this since like 2004 or something, and I'm like, my stuff sucks. So I don't really think that'll ever go away. But you will get better. You will get closer. You'll feel like you're less far away from like that never-ending goal of perfection. So keep going, and thanks everybody for hanging out. I love you all. I hope you have a good weekend, and I will see you next week. And don't forget to check out the Girthquake stems and create something for that contest. The deadline's March 31st. You can find everything you need in the announcements on my Discord server. Okay, bye.